Welcome to the June 24th meeting of your Aiken City Council. This time we're going to have an invocation, which will be followed by the pledge. At that point, I'll ask our chief to lead it. If you would, please rise if you would for the invocation. Let's pray. Father, we're thankful for this opportunity to come together as a city and as a council to tend to the business of that city. We just pray that your hand would be upon us and guide us, help us through this process so that your kingdom would be lifted by it and the citizens of our city would be touched, and give us just the wisdom to make decisions that would lead us in the way that you would have us to go. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. And Chief Branco, good evening.
Good evening, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're happy to see so many people out tonight. We'd like to go over our guidelines just briefly with you at this time. Meetings are a public forum in which many opinions are expressed, and the business of the city must be conducted. As such, disciplined, honorable, and professional decorum is paramount. Courteous and respectful communication is expected. During public hearing, all questions and statements from the public shall be directed to the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and I will certainly recognize you. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. In order to allow an opportunity for everyone who wishes to address council, speakers should limit their comments to the subject being discussed. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to address an issue and may only address an issue once unless questions from council are posed to the speaker. And with that, I'd like to recognize our Mayor Pro Tem, who I'd also like to wish a happy birthday to.
Thank you.
For additions and deletions to the agenda.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor and members of council. I have not received any notice of additions or deletions to this agenda. With that in mind, I make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the agenda as presented, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. The minutes were distributed to council prior to our meeting for their review. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I second.
Councilman Wolf, Councilwoman Diggs. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Now to that section of our agenda under presentations. Number one is a proclamation designating July as Park and Recreation Month. I'd like to read the proclamation at this time. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Aiken. Whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally or physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, and attraction and retention of business and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the month of July is designated as the nation's official Parks and Recreation Month, and the city of Aiken recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Aiken that July is recognized and designated as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Aiken, and we encourage our citizens to use and enjoy the parks and recreation facilities that have been provided for their use. Is there a motion to accept the proclamation?
I so move.
Thank you, Councilwoman Diggs. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Gerardo. Any comments? All those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. I'm going to ask our Parks and Rec Director, Ms. Jessica Campbell, to come up. And I think he has some folks coming with you, correct? Good evening, Jessica.
Thank you so much for acknowledging this proclamation as we celebrate National Parks and Recreation Month. The month of July is a great opportunity to come out, explore all that we have in our parks and our recreation centers, meet the wonderful staff that makes that happen. And so I wanted to introduce who we have today: Neil Griffin in our Parks Division, Sydney Gray in our Athletics Division, and Rashika Gaines in our Recreation Division. Them, along with many others, are going to help July be game on. Hashtag game on if you're on social media. That is through NRPA, and that is what you're going to see happening in July with our staff. So thank you again.
Very good, and it's nice to have Neil and Sid and Rashika with us. I'll come down and present this at this time.
Jessica, do you want to ask, can we ask how long they've been on board so they can share with us how long you've been with us so that the audience can know that you've been on the team for a while?
I've been with the city. It can be 19 years, November the 13th.
Excellent. Thank you.
I've been with the city since February 2016, so 3 years.
Okay.
Over 3 years.
Been with the city 30 years since February this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a great team at our Parks and Rec who do a fine job for our city. Next under presentations, we have a recognition for Lieutenant Aaron Dobbs for graduation from the FBI National Academy. And at this time, I would like to recognize our city manager, Mr. Stuart Biedenbaugh, for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are pleased tonight to recognize Public Safety Lieutenant Aaron Dobbs. He graduated June 7th from the 276th session of the FBI National Academy, which is a 10-week law enforcement program in Quantico, Virginia. Less than 1% of law enforcement officers in the United States attend this prestigious academy. And we were very pleased to have nominated Aaron and that he was accepted because we knew he would excel there. We're also honored to have with us tonight the other 3 members of public safety staff who have gone through the FBI National Academy at various times, including our Chief Charles Baranko, Captain Brian Mills, and Captain Marty Sawyer. Also, we would like to acknowledge and recognize Lieutenant Dobbs' family members that are present, and we have his framed certificate of completion from the FBI National Academy.
I'll have Mr. Dobbs come up.
Yes.
Honestly, I did take public speaking while I was out there, but I'm still working on that, so just bear with me. It was an awesome opportunity, and I just want to thank the city for allowing me to go. There was 256 students representing 49 states and over 30 countries, and after 10 weeks of classes and conversations after hours, one of the things I realized was there's no place like home, so I was real happy just to come home, and I couldn't have done it without the support of this community, my family, my work family, public safety, and also my family. I have my sister here, her husband, Scotty Robinson, who actually inspired me to get into law enforcement. I have my mom over there, and then my wife, who actually held everything down and for me while I was gone, and she was willing to allow me to share our anniversary with my graduation day. So I got to graduate, and then we celebrate our anniversary that same day. So once again, I just want to thank everyone for this opportunity.
Aaron, we just want to say congratulations, and we're very proud of you. And it's funny that Scotty inspired you to be in law enforcement, because years ago he inspired me to play basketball, and then about a year later inspired me not to play basketball.
And happy belated anniversary.
I'd like to ask the chief a question. Chief, how many individuals have we had to complete the academy that you are aware of as Lieutenant Dobbs with our public safety?
We currently have 4.
Okay,
But there's been many over the years.
right, I know that.
I would like, Mayor,
Please.
just a
Chief.
few words. I would like to recognize Aaron's brother and his wife, of course, was able to attend graduation, but having some more of his family here while he's being recognized, I think is a tribute to the commitment that it takes for the law enforcement and public safety field support group that it has to have to be successful in this. So I'd like to recognize them again, Mayor.
Can they stand? Can you stand?
If the family members would stand for us, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank y'all for being here.
Can I answer all your questions?
Yes, sir, thank you so much.
Well done.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Chief. Moving down our agenda to old business. Item number 1 is approval of appointments and discussion of appointees to various city boards, commissions, and committees. I'll recognize our city manager, Mr. Stuart Beanbaum.
Thank you, Mayor. Council has 4 appointments for consideration tonight. Councilman Waltz has recommended the appointment of Jack Wetzel and Linda McLean to the Equine Committee and the reappointment of Dr. Sean Alford to the Housing Authority. If reappointed, Dr. Alford's term would expire May 28, 2023, as Housing Authority members serve 5-year terms. Councilman DeWar has recommended the appointment of Carol McElwee to the Equine Committee. So you have before you tonight the appointments of Jack Wetzel, Linda McLean, and Carol McElwee to the Equine Committee, and the reappointment of Dr. Sean Alford to the Housing Authority. And I would like to add, we did check. We've got, as you know, 14 members of the Equine Committee, 14 slots, and assuming these individuals are approved tonight, I believe that will mean 6 approvals. If we can get 2 other folks approved, we will have a quorum of appointments, which I think the city attorney researched they can begin meeting. So I just wanted to plant that bug in your ear. So anyway, you have these 4 appointments before you tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to accept these?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman DeWar. Thank you, Councilwoman Price. All those in favor of accepting the nominations, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Are there any names to be considered at our next meeting? All right, thank you. Moving down old business to item number 2, this is a second reading and public hearing of an ordinance to annex 3.01 acres at 519 Silver Bluff Road and zone it general business by title and ordinance to annex to the corporate limits of the city of Aiken property located at 519 Silver Bluff Road and to zone the same general business GB. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Jericho. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Comments from staff?
Thank you, Mayor. You have before you tonight second reading of this annexation. The property went to the Planning Commission and was approved, and due to the desire to build a rental storage facility on the site, it also had to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception. The Board of Zoning Appeals granted their special exception on May the 28th. The Planning Commission granted their approval May the 14th. We have the reason why it had to get a special exception was general business does not allow a storage facility without this approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Since water and sewer is available for the property, it must be annexed since they desire those services. Also, due to the existing level of service F along this segment of Silver Bluff Road, there must be a traffic study to be consistent with our traffic management ordinance. So you have before you tonight second reading of this annexation of 3.01 acres at 519 Silver Bluff Road to zone general business.
Thank you, Mr. Greenbaum. Any comments from the audience? Comments from council? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of second reading of this annexation? And that's unanimous, thank you. Moving down to new business. Of an ordinance to annex 109 Marvin Drive and zone it residential single-family RS10 by title, an ordinance to annex to the corporate limits of the city of Aiken certain properties located at 109 Marvin Drive and to zone the same residential single-family RS10. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Jericho. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Waltz. Comments from staff?
Thank you. Pursuant to our water and sewer annexation policy, 109 Marvin Drive is before you tonight. The owners have applied for annexation. The Planning Commission reviewed this at their June 11th meeting and unanimously recommended that it be annexed and zoned residential single-family RS10. So you have before you tonight the first reading of an ordinance to annex property at 109 Marvin Drive and zone residential single-family RS10.
Thank you, Mr. Bebo. Any comments from the audience? Comments from council? Hearing none, all those in favor of first reading, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving down to item number 2 under new business. This is a first reading of an ordinance to rezone property at 955 Colony Parkway from residential multifamily high density RMH to office O. By title, an ordinance amending the zoning of real estate located at 955 Colony Parkway from residential multifamily high density to office. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Price, comments from staff?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The property at 955 Colony Parkway, in order to operate a hair salon at this location, it must be rezoned from residential multifamily high density to office. The applicant is requesting this, a hair salon can be opened at this location. It was previously used as corporate headquarters for an employment contractor, and the office use was considered a grandfathered non-conforming use under the RMH zoning designation. And after review by the planning department and subsequently the planning commission, it was felt that the office O designation was most appropriate for this use because it would maintain a buffer between the existing recreational area, our Carolina Bay, and the higher intensity commercial uses found across Colony Parkway, the rear of the Fresh Market Shopping Center. And it would also bring some consistency to the zoning for the site. So the Planning Commission heard this request at their June 11th meeting and unanimously approved that it be rezoned from RMH to O. And it is before you tonight for first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Bebo. Any comments from our audience? Any comments from council? Hearing none, all those in favor on first reading of this item, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving down to that section of our agenda labeled petitions and requests. Number 1 is approval for an auditing firm. I'll recognize Mr. Biedenball.
Thank you. As council is aware, we are required by state law to have an annual audit, and it's filed at the state treasurer's office by the end of the following calendar year. We recently issued a request for proposals for a single certified public accounting firm to perform an audit of the city's financial statements for the fiscal years ending June 30, 2020, 2021, and 2022. We have 4 firms that submitted proposals, and we are recommending that Malden and Jenkins continue to perform our annual audits for the next 3 fiscal years for the cost of $112,500 payable over 3 years. As you may know, our procurement code for professional services allows that price is just one factor, and looking at the qualifications of the lowest bid, they did not have some of the experience for unique things such as auditing. We will have 2 pension plans that will need to be audited because council may remember our new defined contribution pension plan will have been in place for several years when this audit firm is awarded. So we recommend Malden and Jenkins as our auditing firm for those fiscal years for the amount of $112,500.
All right, thank you, Mr. Beedenbaugh. Is there a motion?
I so moved.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Diggs. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Girardeau. Comments from the audience? Any comments or questions from council?
In the past, Mr. Mayor, when we've selected the auditor, I thought we had a policy that we would try to select a different audit firm every 5 years. In fact, on my own money, I bought this, an elected official's guide to auditing. And it says mandatory auditor rotations can be effected only if a government has access to a sufficient number of interested and qualified audit firms. So I have no problems approving staff recommendation because, as it happened the last time, I think we kept Elliott Davis over.
10 years.
Yes, but at the time that we voted, it was a brand-new team, and I think I'm hearing that it may be a brand-new team in Malden Jenkins. I'm not sure.
Yes. We are on our third audit manager, which is a good thing because they bring a different perspective.
Yes.
Also, the audit manager is working out of a different office. The first two audit managers were working, I believe, out of the Macon, Georgia office. The new audit manager will be working out of the Columbia, South Carolina office. They've recently expanded within the last 18 months.
Okay, well, I just want to bring that.
And we went back and looked. Thank you for those comments because I think that is important. We did use Elliott Davis for 10 years until we went with Malden and Jenkins several years ago. And prior to that, we used Cherry, Beckert, and Holland for 7 years. So there is, but I'm familiar with some cities that have used the same audit firm for several decades.
Yeah,
So
we're fortunate in having a choice.
yes, yes.
Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the recommended audit firm, please raise your hand. That's unanimous, thank you. Number 200, petitions and requests. This is a request to amend Resolution 1126201-8C for provision of water service to 934 East Pine Log Road. I'm going to ask staff for comment first.
Thank you. We did, you may recall, this is for a proposed Dollar General on Pine Log Road East. We did approve the provision of water service at that time, and there were two requirements that the applicant has applied for an extension time. They had 120 days to close on the subject property and to record an executed agreement on the provision of city services. However, the applicant has had difficulty closing on the subject property, so this condition was unable to be satisfied within the time frame imposed by City Council. When informed of this by Mr. Trotter, we reached out to the city attorney, and he drafted a resolution to amend the resolution you speak of, which will now require or give them till August 30th, 2019 to meet the conditions in order to receive city services. And that is what this resolution is before you tonight. We'll maintain all the other requirements, but it extends from 120 days. Now it extends it to August 30th, 2019.
And that's the recommendation of staff?
That is the recommendation of staff also.
Okay, is there a motion to this amendment?
So moved. I just was gonna make a comment, but that's okay.
Okay, we have a motion second.
So,
Okay.
I've said it before, say again, whenever we grant utilities to any of these places, we have the right to say what we want the building to look like. All this says is brick on 3 sides. It doesn't tell us what it's gonna look like. I think in the future, we need to see the design of these things. Because I've been to a lot of towns where Dollar Generals are very nice stores, not just plain butler buildings with brick and, you know. But I think in the future, we need to look at that.
Yes, and
Did we not have that the first time we voted on this?
the design, in the packet. I will be honest, I did not look. I recall that was a legitimate concern of Councilman Waltz.
Yeah.
I see Mr. Trotter is here and can
I think we
maybe
did.
comment on that.
Ms. Bell asked for it.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all for considering this. Our building elevations are attached to the initial application for utility services and reviewed with Ryan Bland and his staff, and it worked out with them. It just so happens that the wording of the condition ended up all brick, but we have an exact elevation attached to the initial application that will be followed on site.
Yeah, they just haven't come this far.
At the staff and the planning commission level, yes, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. Any other comments from the audience? Any other comments from council? Okay, all those in favor of amending this resolution, please raise your hand. And that's unanimous, thank you. Anything under issues and updates?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to put a plug in, especially to those at home, regarding the Smart 911 app for better protect residents in emergencies. Gosh, in the past year or two, we've had a lot of problems in that regard, most recently here within the past week. So if you're not familiar with the Smart 911 app, call Public Safety. They'll educate you. I'm fully up to it. You can put down how many cars you have and how many people live in the house, and even if you have animals, what kind of animals you have, and so forth. So, I mean, there's absolutely no reason why anybody should not be participating in this program. It's a great help to public safety when they respond and they know, and the fire department responds and they know what they're going to deal with.
Very good. Council needs to go into executive session.
I would like one other thing, Mr. Mayor, my apologies. I would like to also mention to residents, viewers, and council, and I think I sent this to council several days ago. There is tomorrow a public information session about tree trimming that we've got the urban forester for the city of Camden that will be here to make a presentation, and it is in the conference center, the first floor of the municipal building, beginning at 2 o'clock.
Very good. All right. City Council will go into executive session pursuant to Section 30-470A2 to discuss negotiations, incidents to a proposed contractual arrangements, and proposed sale or purchase of property, and to receive legal advice where the legal advice relates to a pending, threatened, or potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege, settlement of legal claims, or the position of the public agency and other adversary situations involving the assertion against the agency of a claim. Specifically, City Council will discuss two proposed contractual arrangements with the owners of two separate parcels of real estate regarding the possible purchase and/or acquisition of land by the City of Aiken. Second, the City Council will go into executive session pursuant to 30-470A1 of the South Carolina for the discussion of employment, appointment, compensation, or promotion of a person regulated by City Council. Specifically, the City Council will go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the annual performance review and other related issues of the city manager. With that, is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilman Jericho. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Waltz.
The city manager evaluation, is that appropriate for executive session?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay.
All those in favor? All right. Council will go into executive session. There will be no action taken other than adjournment when we come out. So we want to